Small open economy has the ability to have perfect capital mobility, which is when the interest rate the economy will close equals the world interest rate. Perfect capital mobility would imply no transaction or other costs moving capital from one country to another. Capital flows. Capital flows is when instead of solving for Y, you solve for trade balance, which is equal to NX. Trade balance equals savings minus investment, which is equivalent to net capital outflow. In a trade deficit, net capital outflow is greater than zero. In a balanced trade, net capital equals zero. In trade surplus, net capital outflow is less than zero. Exchange rate. Nominal exchange rate, relative price of the currencies of two countries. Real exchange rate, relative price of the goods of two countries. Trade balance is when NX equals net capital outflow, which equals savings minus investment. Saving is fixed by the consumption function in fiscal policy. Investment is fixed by the investment function and the world interest rate. The real value of currency is inversely related to NX. The difference between a large open economy and a small open economy is that in a large open economy, you have imperfect capital mobility. In imperfect capital mobility, it means that it is difficult and expensive to move capital between countries.
The following slides are about the open economy in the short run. The Mundell-Fleming model is an example of the open economy in the short run. It's an extension of the ISLM model, but instead of just showing the relationship between interest rate and output, it also shows the relationship between the nominal exchange rate. The key assumption in the SOE with perfect capital mobility is that R is equal to R star. And as you can see here are the two different equations for the IS curve and the LM curve, which represent the goods market and the money market. In this model, the LM curve is constant and the IS curve is downward sloping, while the curve for the nominal exchange rate is a horizontal line.
When looking at the open economy in the short run, it is important to note that the interest rate differentials are represented by the ISLM model. These equations listed are important to consider when looking at this model. Specifically, in this example, a change in the risk premium will result in a shift in both curves in the opposite direction of one another. First, the IS curve will shift left, and the LM curve will then shift right, thus resulting in a depreciation of the exchange rate. Moving forward, in the scenario of a floating exchange rate, monetary policy is effective if the LM curve shifts outward. Additionally, a massive capital outflow results in a depreciated exchange rate and an export boom. Also, fiscal policy and trade restrictions will shift the IS curve and affect the exchange rate as well, as shown in the two figures below. However, in the case of a fixed exchange rate, there is perfect capital mobility and monetary policy is ineffective. Thus, the LM curve will shift from equilibrium to match the fixed exchange rate. If fiscal policy is implemented, the IS curve will shift and induce a shift from the LM curve to bring the equilibrium exchange rate to match the fixed exchange rate, as shown below.
The Mundell-Fleming model with changing prices can be seen on this slide right here. These graphs show that as there's a fall in price P, the LM curve shifts to the right. This then lowers the real exchange rate E and raises income, which is represented as Y. The aggregate demand curve shown in the other graph shows a relationship between Y and P. The SRAS shifts down due to the recession, which causes P to fall. And then when P falls, M over P rises, which makes the economy move back along the AD curve to Y bar. The large open economy in the short run is modeled as the average of the closed economy and the small open economy. The average of these two can give you the information about how a policy will affect it. An example is monetary transmission mechanism, and in a closed economy, an increase in M will result in a decrease in R, which will result in an increase in I and therefore an increase in Y, whereas in the small open economy, an increase in M will result in a decrease in E, which will cause an increase in NX and will still result in an increase in Y. Therefore, in a large open economy, monetary transmission mechanisms take place along both dimensions.